Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. Blue collar life, man. It's so crazy looking back on my history of kind of how I started. And it's interesting because I realize now as I've gotten older that I think a lot of this started when I was a really young cub. You know what I mean? I'd always been messing around with hammers and saws and tools and I'm pretty sure my mother screamed at me, more times than once for grabbing like a handsaw and then trying to cut some wood with it. I had no business doing it. And then building like little ramps for myself so my brother and I could launch off with, whether it be in our rollerblades, on our bicycles, whatever. But I really wanted to kind of get into some of the history of, the trades and how it kind of got started. Because I find, I don't know about you guys who are watching this, but I'm a little bit of a geek for this. So these are kind of some of the topics and stuff that I really wanted to cover because as much as I can teach you about scaling, and we're going to talk about those things as well as time evolves and building your business and doing all these things, the history of all this is super important to understand too. Now, I don't usually get into numbers and, maybe I'll share some numbers and stuff of some research that I've done over the years and things I've learned, but I always keep it fairly surface level, and I'm going to continue to do that. If you're new to the channel, man, we appreciate you guys being here. Do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, man. You got nothing to lose. Spend a little time, listen to some of the stuff we put out. We put a lot of different information out there to help you guys grow within your business or just as a person, because we talk about all these things and how it pertains to your growth as a blue-collar worker. While you're at it, man, please do me a favor, smash that like button. The funny thing is, I've gone kind of into the rabbit hole on the trades and blue collar and all these things, and then the saying of blue collar goes back many years, and it was the labor workers, wore these like jean type of shirts. So you can imagine like a dungaree shirt, which was basically blue, and they called those guys blue collar. But I want to go back even further because I've thought even millions of years ago, and I mean, we can get into whether or not we believe in the dinosaur era or not, and this isn't a rabbit hole conspiracy theory channel, but let's just say for argument's sake, all is true. This thing goes back millions of years, right? Because even down to the hunter-gatherers, long before electricity, long before buildings really ever existed, when we were living in caves, somebody had to have the wherewithal and the ability to take their hands and create, right? So we created shelter, we created the ability to eat, we had to create fire. Somebody along the way figured out how to do these things, and obviously now as time has evolved, we've turned into more equipment based, right? We have a lot of the the creature comforts as they call them, but the knowledge of working with your hands started so many, like millions of years ago, and it's just been slowly passed down. And then there's evolution, and as evolution has taken place, right, we have before Christ. I mean, think about, if you go back in your mind now and you think about kind of how old started, and even when we really started building, even still before plumbing, we were already learning how to build with masonry and different things, hieroglyphics and all these crazy. But there were at some point carpenters and masons and stoneworkers and all these things that really helped create the world that we live in, right? One step at a time. But when I've looked into the history and I started thinking like really surface level, I was like, man, we haven't been around. But the truth is, the blue collar or tradesmen have been around. We're probably the first ones, if you really think about it. Because without us, where would the world be, right? We've always been behind the building of infrastructures, right? Because then as Egyptian culture kind of started coming around a little bit, I think they were one of the first countries to kind of come up with plumbing and drainage systems, right? Because the thing is, back in the day when we had a lot of sicknesses, plumbers are really the reason why sickness and things have kind of died down. Now, obviously, people still get sick and things still happen. But when you think about like running water and sewage systems and all these things that have come to pass throughout the years. Those were kind of some of the major reasons why we had a lot of sickness and not a lot of longevity in our lives back in the day. And then as time has evolved to get us to where we are today, we have plumbing and we have it's sanitary, so we're not getting as many infections and things like that. And there are obviously science-based things that are pretty easy to follow to show that how we can kind of stay away from having some of the sicknesses that occurred many, many years ago. And then the other side of all this is like, we're not just talking infrastructure of the world, we're also talking about even in the military side, right? Like the ability to build tools and weapons and farming equipment and so many things, infrastructure style components that really help cultivate the world that we live in now, right? There's always a blue collar man or woman or some tradesman or women behind the scenes that make these things available to us that really help us take things to the next level. And then obviously now with technology and all these things, we just keep getting better and better and better and more efficient and all that stuff. But I mean, going back to the Roman era and old China, you know, the funny thing is I'm from the United States, but the United States is one of the youngest countries, right? So there's so much that went on in some of these other countries like Italy and just in Europe itself. How many things kind of came to be so many years ago that we still use today, but obviously, like I said, you know, like the plumbing systems that were started, you know, thousands of years ago are not the same plumbing systems we have now, but those were the starting points of being a little bit more efficient in how we do things and how we keep things clean and how we keep people from getting sick and all the stuff that I've already expressed. Eventually, along the line, apprenticeships came into play, right? We needed more tradesmen. We realized the importance of that, the time period of people like really just kind of learning on your own. I feel like a lot of it was just trial and error. And then obviously, eventually, like everything else, there's a formula to how to be good at something. And then apprenticeships kind of started, and now masons and steel workers and other guys are taking other people under their wing, and now they're teaching the next generation, and it just kind of spread like wildfire. So, but when I think of the infrastructure of the world, trains, automobiles, heating, hot water, plumbing, all these things started from a tradesman or woman out there. Now, probably back in the day, without being a chauvinist, it was mostly men doing this type of work. Let's be honest, we know that. But now, obviously, time has evolved. Other stuff have kind of come into play. But there are a lot of women in the trades, between electricians and steel workers and plumbing and heating and all these things. You know, here we are. It's kind of come full circle. But then at some point, obviously, we had the Industrial Revolution. I'm kind of going back and forth because I want to slowly tie all these things together, but the main reason for this video is to just talk about how interesting and amazing. Now, yes, I geek out on this because I find it amazing. Even myself, who comes from farmers long back in Poland. My family was farmers and then eventually became steel workers, and my great-grandfather had a steel company in Brooklyn, New York. He used to help build the bridges and help build the infrastructure in New York City, and then, you know, my father was in the trades, now I'm in the trades, now my son's in the trades. So we're, you know, multi generations of tradesmen that have come through my own, you know, family. So obviously my information or my want to learn more about the trades is even that much, it's in my blood, basically. It's in my DNA. So I really do more digging. And I don't really like to come on here and like talk to you about history and all. It's not really my thing. And as much as I understand history and all that, but we had all these different timelines that they've put different labels on, right? Like I said before, you had the Industrial Revolution. We had different empires that have come through the world. We've had wars that have come across the table over the years, Civil War and World War I and World War II and all the other stuff. And as much as I hate the idea of war and what it stands for, the truth is there's always a tradesman behind the scenes helping with all of these things to help get the country or the place you live in, you know, in line with what needs to be, and also keeping the health of the community around them intact. And then obviously that brings us to kind of the modern day now, right? Like with all the technology we have, and we have heat and water coming from public places and filtration systems and power plants and transportation and manufacturing. And you'd be naive to think that this isn't going even further, right? Because we can even look into the future now as it pertains to AI and how robots are kind of helping with, I don't like it. I don't see it happening in my trade right now, but everybody says I'm crazy. Because in my opinion, you're always going to need people that can, like a physical person who can see and problem solve and go through the motions. But it has been interesting to look back and say, okay, this is where we started millions of years ago. I can't even fathom somebody millions of years ago without running water, right? I guess the other thing is sometimes you could take this for granted, the fact that I could just walk to my faucet, open it, let it run, wash my hands, dry my hands. And back in the day, you didn't have those amenities. You didn't have the ability to do those things. And it was tradesmen, tradeswomen, tradesmen that got in there. I don't want to be like, I'm not trying to come on here and act like I'm politically correct. You know what I'm saying? The point is, at the end of the day, it was always someone like us that's behind the scenes making it happen for society. And I wanted to make sure I come on here and talk about these things without really getting into the specifics about each individual time frame, because I find it really important for you to understand that don't just be in this because, you know, you see a dollar value to it, right? Yeah, that's important. Making money is important. Don't get me wrong. I'm not, you know, taking your ideas about growth from a financials perspective and just kind of kicking it to the curb. But I also want you to think a little bit deeper into it and realize what an opportunity you have to carry the torch for so many that brought it to this point, right? And I kind of feel that way about myself. Like, my stepfather taught me the business I'm in. And in a lot of ways, even though we didn't always see eye to eye and whatever, that's not what this is about. I get to carry the torch. I get to carry his name into the next generation, right? I get to share videos and pictures and things with people. Even my own mother, who's still alive, gets a chance to see his teachings and his line of work carried on through the years, right? And I take such pride in the ability to be the person that carries the torch in my particular avenue. And I know many others that are doing the same thing. Again, a quick, slight history lesson. Again, I didn't get into dates and it's not really my thing, but kind of getting you an idea to understand that how far back goes, right? To be where standing now for myself and looking at a boiler and looking at a boiler room and looking at all the electronics and the things that come with it, and then looking back millions of years ago and realizing, you know, look at where we are compared to where we started, is one of those things that always keeps my mind so in tune with what I do and how much I love it, and how I know this mission that I'm starting, that I'm coming on here and I'm giving you guys all this knowledge and trying to teach you, is really my passion project and something I've always wanted to do. And I love helping people, and I hope you guys are getting some from this. If you haven't already by this time, subscribe to the channel, man. Smash that like button. It really helps us and it's greatly appreciated. With that being said, if you have a comment, question, concern, drop it in the comments below. If there's a topic you'd really like to hear us talk about, you can also drop that in the comments below. I would love to share videos for you based on my knowledge and my time out here in the trades. And we do really appreciate you guys and all the support you've shown us to this point. We're just kind of getting this thing off the ground, but it's also been a lot of fun. And we do really appreciate you and hope you're having a tremendous day. Keep killing it. Keep going after everything you want in life. Peace.